don't need your slip knot, man.
Yes, I do!
When are you gonna use it?
Take a shower?
You take a shower and slip knot?
Yes! Shut up!
You shut the fuck up!
So I came up with this kind of like practice thing to practice my enunciation because
You don't need to practice that. Your enunciation is impeccable.
Is it?
Well, unless
I'm
you're
humble.
trying to pronounce names that you don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah, we're gonna
But
have
other
a
than
couple of
that,
those today too.
No, everyone comments on your amazing radio voice.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been honing it for years.
I feel like when we record in person, I let loose a little more and I get into just my regular sort of mumbliness.
Yeah,
As opposed to, I don't know. I'm more on top of it when I'm alone in a room.
Yeah, we're both in our element when we're alone in a room.
Yes.
In different places.
Yeah. But this is how I'm going to practice my enunciation when we start episodes now. Ian Mallory eating celery. Ian Dennis Mallory eating a mess of celery.
I saw that you put that in there, but I thought you actually had a clip of Ian Mallory eating celery and that you were going to play it on the pod as like intro.
I could do an impression of Ian Mallory eating celery.
Yeah, I don't think I have any celery.
I don't have anything
it's always
crunchy,
fun
so I had to fake it.
Apparently, Paul McCartney did that on a Beach Boys song. I think it's Vegetables, the Beach Boys song.
Yeah.
And then he did it again on a Super Free Animals album. Receptacle for the Respectable was the song, and they literally hired him to chew carrots and celery into a mic and use it as like a percussion track.
Receptacle for the Respectable. That's another
correct.
Good
Yeah,
one.
that's a good enunciation.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that phrase, Ian Mallory eating celery, appeared to me in a dream the other night.
Damn. It's taking over your life.
Yeah, I can't totally explain it other than he's on my mind frequently. Okay, so I did want to maybe start with this email we received, which is maybe sort of a criticism of us.
That's fine.
I forwarded it to you. Did you read it that way?
Yeah. Well, I replied, I think.
Well, you replied.
I don't know what I said. Yeah. No, yes, I did read it. Yes, I wouldn't reply to something without reading it. That would be be terrible. Terrible etiquette.
But somebody who listened to last week's episode, her name is Laura. And last week we were talking a lot about the Jeremy Taylor, Kim Taylor voter fraud case. And, like I said, we were in the room together. Things are a little looser, I feel like, when we're just chilling like that. So I think we're maybe less inclined to talk seriously about a subject when we are hanging out.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this email sort of comes from Laura. She said, I just wanted to bring up an issue with this whole Jeremy Taylor voter fraud thing that nobody is talking about. I don't care what sentence his wife got or even really about the votes. The thing that stands out to me is that the reason this was possible in the first place is that both parties failed and continue to fail to reach out to the Vietnamese community and many other immigrant, especially Asian immigrant populations, which I do feel like we did talk about a little bit, even if we were joking around and riffing.
Yeah, we might not have. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point for sure. And I think, obviously we want more people voting. We want more immigrants voting, but also I think maybe we don't put quite the same importance on voting as, I guess she said that she doesn't either necessarily.
Right.
But I think that might be part of it.
Mm-hmm. The real victims of this crime are the people who had their votes stolen from them by the only person who bothered to speak to them about this election, which, yes, is also something that came up in our conversation. Like Matthew Ung, the other county supervisor, who said it's too hard to talk to immigrants.
Yeah.
So he just gave up. With language barriers and restrictive voting requirements, it can be intimidating for people who already face discrimination. Often immigrant communities are insular insular. What's the right way to say that, do you think?
Insular? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you say it with a
Insular. Often immigrant communities
Inshallah.
Often immigrant communities are insular for self-protection, and this is an example of someone taking advantage of that. The lesson we should learn from this is that people on the fringes, people already invisible in so many ways, are vulnerable to bad actors using their exclusion for self-enrichment. We have to remember that voting is a thing we've grown up with, and it's simple for us, but that's not always the case for people new to our country. It's actually a pretty confusing process from an outsider's perspective. It might seem corny, but all my grandparents were immigrants, and I know how important it was for them to actually have a say in their government. So to see this community be tricked out of their rights really upsets me. And that is completely understandable, of course. It's everybody's failing when a group of people are forgotten and left to be victimized. In the future, I would love to say that candidates from both sides will reach out to the Vietnamese immigrant population now that they've shown a desire to vote, but I fear that they'll end up being just evidence in a trial and never given the chance to voice their actual views in an election. Anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because I think the victims should have at least some consideration in the story. Again, that was from Laura, who did correctly guess our email address. So congratulations, Laura, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on the situation. And yeah, I read all that because I do feel like it was worth mentioning again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally fair point.
Yeah.
And sorry if we didn't treat it seriously enough. But yeah, it should be easier to vote for everyone.
Yeah.
Simple as.
When I was editing the episode, that was the only part, I think, of our conversation that I wasn't 100% on board with, was when you said voting is easy.
Oh, yeah, I know. I also thought that back. It's like, yeah, it depends on your perspective, of course. But yeah, it's could be easier. And I think we did talk about like voter ID laws are stupid. And
yeah, you said that too. Like, it wasn't like you were just saying unqualified. Voting's easy. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
I think your point was more that just like the actual act of like getting a ballot and filling out a bubble.
Yeah, I was just more just like the whole scheme was like so small time and just like stupid. Like,
yeah.
Like it would have been, I guess my point really was that it would have been it would have been more difficult, but it wouldn't have been that much more difficult to actually inform these people about the process and what they needed to do to be involved.
Right. And if you were the one giving them all that information in the first place, they're probably pretty inclined to vote for your candidate.
Yeah.
I would think. I don't know, man. They're just taking advantage of people who don't have all the facts and are intentionally excluded from the process, as Laura was saying. So again, thank you, Laura, for writing in. If you would like to email us, you can guess the email, or you can try this one, mail@rockhardcock.us. I will see emails sent to that address. But there are other addresses that will reach the same inbox, and you can guess.
Wow.
You can try lots of different things. Another thing that we mentioned last week that we didn't have time to talk about was the guy who stole someone's identity for 35 years.
Yeah, that is wild. I'm glad that you put that on the itinerary.
Yeah, it's such a crazy situation that we should probably talk about it a little bit. This is, we're sort of delving into true crime shit again, but there are political ramifications of this, I think.
Well, the guy who did it looks like John Fetterman. He looks like John Fetterman.
Yeah,
that's the political angle here.
If he's looking for a way out of his current predicament, maybe steal another identity.
That's right.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if that identity catches some heat over the next.
Yeah, that's not a great identity to steal
maybe.
when everyone's paying attention to you already.
Yeah. By the way, I hope that we're not about to enter a world war.
No, I think I don't think we are. I think really Iran has demonstrated like impeccable restraint. This is the first time they've ever retaliated. In the last however long they've been constantly antagonized by the United States and Israel.
It's. I haven't looked into the details all that much, but it's definitely a like grit your teeth moment. Oh shit, Iran's actually doing something for once.
Yeah.
What's going to happen now?
Yeah. Well, Biden is publicly supporting Israel, but working behind the scenes to tell them not to retaliate and that U.S. will not support it. So, once again, very coherent strategy.
Mm-hmm. Has he given any public statements? I know that he was about to speak and then didn't.
I mean, I think I don't know. I think I recall just some, unwavering support for Israel stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, whatever. But then, of course, you see like publicly Biden is saying this, but privately he's telling, he's very, he's using a very serious tone of voice stern, with Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah.
yeah. He's communicating so very sternly with Bibi.
Yeah.
Okay. So the guy who looks like John Fetterman, his real name, the name he was born with is Matthew David Kierans. But he was living for, again, like 35 years under the name William Donald Woods. I'm reading from the Gazette article about this by Emily Anderson. They got the scoop on this. A former University of Iowa hospital employee pleaded guilty Monday to federal charges that he had been living under another man's identity since 1988. Causing the other man to be falsely imprisoned for identity theft and sent to a mental hospital.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a very bad thing to do. Like, what the fuck? And also, like, I'm sure we'll get to it, but he was helping them prosecute this man who he stole the identity from.
Yes, this guy is a real piece of shit. He's been convicted of one count of false statement to a national credit union. So that's what they got him on first, but I think what I read was that there are more charges pending.
You would hope, yeah.
Yeah. So that false statement to a national credit union administration insured institution, that's punishable by up to 30 years in federal prison. Okay. But the one count of aggravated identity theft is punishable by up to 2 years in federal prison.
Dude. Man, the authoritarian credit bureau once again.
Yeah, the discrepancy there is pretty large. If you lie to the bank, yes, life sentence. If you steal someone's identity for 35 years, that's a quick 2 years in prison. I'd like to reiterate, any time in prison is a pretty extreme punishment. So he was working for the university hospital's IT department from 2013 to 2023. So he spent 10 years working remotely for the university hospital under an identity that he stole from a guy that he met in the 80s.
Yeah, at a hot dog cart in New Mexico. And the only reason he did it was apparently he had stolen a car like when he was a teenager and had a warrant out for his own identity. So he was trying to like just get rid of that charge, I guess, by assuming someone else's identity or
right.
Just
okay,
like
it says,
another small time, like a 16-year-old. I mean, again, yeah, we can talk all about the justice system, but like a 16-year-old stealing a car, like that's not a life sentence by any means.
Right. He was 16. He stole a car after running away from his adoptive parents' home in San Francisco. And he was arrested in Oregon with the stolen car. At this time, he was still going by his birth name, Matthew Kierans. But he never showed up to court for that stolen car thing. And then,
yeah,
you try to dodge one stolen car charge and you end up pretending to be someone else for 40 years. Yeah. What is the series of decisions here that like, I don't want to face the consequences for this one thing I did as a teenager. And so that person no longer exists at all. That's a pretty extreme way out of the charge there.
Yeah.
Right. You said that they met while working at a hot dog cart in Albuquerque.
Breaking Bad storyline for sure.
Yeah.
That's that's where they found the low-level meth dealers at the hot dog cart.
And they don't really explain why this guy, like why do you then dedicate the rest of your life to like screwing over this one guy who you worked at a hot dog cart with? The fucking sociopath shit here is so over the top.
Well, apparently the records keeping at hot dog cart and like the HR department is not very secure about, maintaining security for the records that they hold.
Yeah, did he just like
he must have like just found a piece of paper and been like, like, oh, wow, I just had a great idea that will not come back to bite me 30 years later at all.
I mean, it's pretty remarkable how long he got away with it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And we'll get to the hero who solved the mystery.
Yeah. You got to give credit where credit's due, So we're not above that.
So he started using this guy Donald Woods' name to obtain employment, to obtain insurance, and he started paying taxes under the name Donald Woods. In 1990, he obtained a fraudulent Colorado ID card with Woods' name and birthday on it, which he used to get a job at a fast food restaurant and to open a bank account. And then he used 2 bad checks to buy a car. So this guy loves stealing cars. He really just wanted to keep stealing cars. So I don't know, was the plan just like serial car theft under a new name each time?
Yeah, it's the steps from there to becoming an IT guy at a hospital. I'm not sure. And he was making they said $130,000 a year at the hospital.
Yeah, really, really good salary. And the university hospital has tried to sort of minimize the role that he played at the hospital. Like the federal report on this, from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Iowa, called him an administrator at the hospital, and the hospital themselves were like, no. He was not important. He was not a senior leader. We were just paying him, more than like almost any of our other employees. But yeah, this car that he bought with bad checks, he bought a car for $600 in 1991 with 2 $300 checks that bounced. What's the scam there?
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, why are you still using the same identity after you do that? You're just doing the same crime that you were already convicted of in your own name. So why don't you steal another identity at that point? Like, you've trashed 2 identities with these warrants for stolen cars, and now you're going to continue? You got to get another identity.
But if you're selling a car for $600 and a guy hands you 2 $300 checks, why is it split? And if they both bounced, I don't know. What was he like? Here, I got more money coming in 2 weeks, so cash this one now, and this one next month. Like, is that it? But then when the first check bounces, it's like the whole jig is up. I don't know.
Yeah, but he already has the car at that point, so game over.
It's true. Yeah, just make it really complicated so they don't question your sincerity.
Yeah,
because if you were pulling a scam, why would it be so intricate?
Yeah, it worked. I mean, shit.
He drove the stolen car to Idaho where it broke down and he abandoned it. So, I mean, who's scamming who? The car didn't last that long anyway.
Yeah, it's a $600 car.
You can only move one state over and it breaks down. He withdrew all his money from the Colorado bank using an ATM in Idaho and left the state. An arrest warrant was issued for him in Colorado, but, it doesn't seem like he was ever arrested for that one. But that would have been on the new identity. That was a Donald Woods crime.
Yeah.
So that never seems to have caught up to him. Okay, but it gets really fucking wild. In 1994, he had been using Donald Woods' name for 6 years. He got married under that identity and had a child whose last name is Woods.
Yeah, that's the second victim here, really. Like, that's fucked up. I can't imagine what kind of mindfuck that is to figure that out after becoming an adult.
Yeah, and I don't think that I don't know if he was still married, and they don't say anything about the wife in this article or the son, right? But yeah, I don't know. That's a horrible thing to find out. Born in 94. So yeah, that kid's 30.
Yeah, like Jesus.
In 2012, he had been using this identity for 24 years already, and he fraudulently acquired a copy of Woods' birth certificate from the state of Kentucky using information he found about Woods' family on Ancestry.com. So it's that easy to get a birth certificate?
I mean, if he already has the other documentation, then yeah, pretty much. I mean, if he already has his social, date of birth, like, I mean, obviously he could construct some kind of like address history. Like, you have plenty of documentation, but yeah, I guess they probably, yeah, it makes sense they would ask for your parents too.
Right. Anyone could do this.
That's actually a big problem, is like a lot of times you have to have documentation in order to get documentation. Like, you have to have an ID to get an ID, basically, which is like a big problem for underhoused people.
Right. Which is what happened to the person whose identity was stolen.
Yeah.
That's what's like really fucked up about this, is like what happened to that guy. So yeah, they talk about how Kieran's, under the name Donald Woods, earned more than $700,000 from the university hospital over his 10 years working there. He was taking out vehicle and personal loans from credit unions under that name, totaling more than $200,000. So quite a lot of financial crimes going on. Unnecessarily at this point.
Yeah, that's like,
why
like,
do all this?
He's like building credit for this like identity he stole. Like, I mean, I guess it's like one thing for you to like get a fraudulent loan and then just disappear, but it's another one to like exist under that identity for years. Like,
right, with insane. The guy still living, like, this guy's still around. Okay, so this is kind of where they catch up with him, the guy who was unfortunate enough to be working at a hot dog stand with Matthew Kieran's in 1988. In 2019, the real William Woods was homeless, living in Los Angeles. He went to a branch of the National Bank. So Kieran's had an account at a national bank in Donald Woods' name, or William Donald Woods. William Woods goes to the branch of the bank and explained that he recently discovered someone was using his credit and had accumulated a lot of debt. Woods didn't want to pay the debt and asked to know the account numbers for any accounts he had open at the bank so he could close them. Woods gave the bank employee his real Social Security card and an authentic California ID card, which matched the information the bank had on file. Because there was a large amount of money in the accounts, the bank employee asked Woods a series of security questions that he was unable to answer.
Those fucking things.
So it didn't matter that he had like the actual identification documents to verify himself, because some other guy made up the answers to the security questions. That trumps the actual documentation in this case.
Yeah.
So then the bank employee called Kieran's, who had opened the accounts and set up the security answers, and he had the correct security answers. And so the real William Woods was screwed and got the cops called on him. And like he was charged with identity theft because someone else stole his identity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
And this is like a detail that gets fucked up that is like so damning for the LAPD. So LAPD is like investigating the situation. They spoke with both guys, the real William Woods and the fake one. The fake one faxed them a copy of his Social Security card and birth certificate, as well as a Wisconsin driver's license that he had obtained under the name that he stole. Remember, the guy's real name is William Donald Woods, but the driver's license copy that he sent to LAPD said William David Woods. David as the middle name instead of Donald. If you are stealing someone's identity for 30 years, that is the kind of sloppy mistake that you should not be making anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that combined with like the guy literally having, you know, like legitimate forms of identification might lead a little bit more thorough investigation, but
he's a homeless guy, so obviously this is just, he's crazy, just throw him in prison.
Yeah, I'm sure that played a factor.
His excuse for this was he sometimes used David as a middle name, but his real name was William Donald Woods. I don't feel like that is a sufficient excuse. Who does that? Who changes, like, who has interchangeable middle names like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could probably submit a name change to change your middle name, but like,
Yeah. I want to go from Donald to David. I just want a slightly different middle name.
I don't think the authorities care about middle names too much. It's a loophole, identity theft loophole.
Yeah, middle name doesn't matter. Just something similar. And if anyone ever challenges you on it, just say, yeah, sometimes I use that one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I ask to have that put on my driver's license just for fun. So then they assign the name Matthew Kierans to the real William Woods.
Yeah.
They accuse him like, no, you tried to steal this identity. You're Matthew Kierans.
And they spelled his name wrong. They got the I before E mixed up.
Right.
Except after C, man.
Yeah, this is like...
Actually, they got it right. His name is technically went against the I before E, except after C rule, but then they fixed it for him.
Right. They're like, no, there's no way this is right. So they overlook just a very sloppy discrepancy in the middle name for the fake William Woods. And then when they like, without reason, I don't think they really would have had any evidence that this guy's name is Matthew Kierans. They're just like, this is you now.
I was wondering that too.
And
like
then
they're just like,
wrong.
all right, well, that's you now. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, right.
We worked at this hot dog stand in New Mexico together, so it has to be.
We've got these two guys. We know one of them's William, one of them's Matthew. So
I wonder if the real Matthew Kierans was like, well, there's this guy, Matthew Kierans, I used to work with, who is a really shady character.
Yeah, I heard he stole a car when he was 16.
Has to be this guy.
I'm sure he would do something like this. It's projection, yeah, like like literal, intentional projection.
Yeah.
So because William Woods refused to just say like, yeah, I stole that identity, I'm actually Matthew Kierans, he maintained, no, I am the real William Woods, like throughout all of these like criminal proceedings. They were like, well, clearly he's insane. So they forced him into a mental hospital in California.
This is a Franz Kafka book.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. He ended up serving 2 years in prison because he pleaded no contest. Smart move to not admit guilt, at least. Think about all the pressure this guy's under. Like, he knows he's William Woods, but the full power of the state and the LAPD are like, no, you're not. And he never buckled fully.
Yeah, this man, he's a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Like, they need to just give him all the money this guy stole using his name. Like,
yeah, just give him his house and his wife and kid. If you're going to do all this stuff in my name, like, it's only fair that I just have all that stuff once you
for
get
real.
Caught. Let this guy run IT at the university hospital. I'm sure he'd be just as good at it.
Probably.
So when the real William Woods gets out of prison, he somehow tracks Matthew Kierans down to his employer. He finds out that he works for the University of Iowa Hospital. He calls the hospital security department, who then forward his call on to the UIPD. And who investigated this situation? The celery man himself. Ian Mallory opened an investigation into this and tracked down the biological father listed on the birth certificate, who was still living in Kentucky, had that guy do a DNA test, had the real William Woods do a DNA test, and confirmed a match. And then he sort of confronted Matthew Kierans with this information. This is funny. On July 17th, 2023, Mallory interviewed Kierans. He asked Kierans what his father's name was, and Kierans accidentally gave the name of his own adoptive father.
That's, rookie mistake when it comes to long-term identity theft.
It's strange. Like, why do you even remember your adoptive parents this far into your identity theft?
Yeah.
You are William Woods at that point. You should not remember anything about your past self.
You are the best method actor in history at this point.
Yeah, so if he slips up on such stupid things like the middle name and his father's name, how did he get away with this for so long? Just no one ever confronted him about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, probably just because they didn't find the other guy credible, just based on his circumstances.
Yeah, they just discriminated against a guy who...
So, I mean, we don't like Ian Mallory on this podcast because he keeps like going after trans people for no reason and protesters for no reason. But you got to give him a little bit of credit for being the only police department that actually took this seriously at any point of, you know, the real William Woods spent a long time trying to correct this.
Yeah. Get him more cases like this. Let him use...
it's better for your image, man. Like, people like when you like, you know, crack a crazy case like this. They don't like when you go after fucking protesters for doing literally nothing.
Yeah, this case is getting some national attention, and I have seen internet comments praising Ian Mallory as a hero cop because of this, which I don't like to see. I don't like his reputation getting whitewashed because he did one good thing.
Yeah. That's not good. But, you know, maybe just keep doing more good things instead of really shitty, awful things.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a good reinforcement for that, you know. You had one case that really didn't go your way, and then you had one where, you know, the internet's really coming to your defense. So.
Yeah, you reversed 40 years of injustice by getting one guy's DNA test. So when he said his own adoptive father's name, Mallory then confronted Kieran's with the DNA evidence, and Kieran's responded by saying, "My life is over and everything is gone." And then he just immediately confessed to everything. So, man. Something that you mentioned, though, that wasn't in that Gazette article, but was in the follow-up Des Moines Register article. So when the real William Woods was being prosecuted in California, Kieran's remained deeply involved throughout the prosecution. He admitted in his plea, repeatedly contacting prosecutors for updates and voicing concern about delays. After Woods was released, he continued trying to reclaim his identity, leading Kieran's to file additional false police reports about his actions.
Yeah, like, that's so sociopathic. It's almost unbelievable.
You can't do this to someone who's still alive. This is not like a Don Draper thing where he like assumes the identity of a guy who died next to him in war, you know?
So you're saying he should have killed the guy, is what you're saying.
I'm saying it would have been a victimless crime if he had done it to a dead person.
You know, I don't know if I agree with that either.
It's just you know, it's
dead people have
hard.
families too.
My inclination is that this will catch up to you eventually, and it did.
Yeah.
But I can see how even after maybe 15 years, if it never catches up to you, you're probably thinking, well,
yeah, I mean, that's
I'm
probably
in the clear now, right?
He's like, it probably looks really good that I'm like contesting this, like still saying that this guy's trying to steal my identity. They've already believed me at this point, so it might as well just completely throw this man under the bus. Yeah,
what would somebody who is legitimately in this situation do?
Yeah,
they would be as punitive as possible against the person trying to steal their identity. So I got to play the part. Yeah, my God, Matthew Kieran's, you made a big mistake. I don't even know. I don't know what the fuck. How do you? Yeah. How do you make that situation right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no idea. Like the criminal justice stuff, it's like the system we have is awful and terrible. But there's some difficult questions involved.
Yeah, what does rehabilitation look like for someone who did that for so long? Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, just give him all the assets. Give the guy you stole the identity all the assets. I think that's the fair thing to do.
Yeah, I think everything can be forgiven. You just give the real William Woods everything that you earned in his name.
Just reset your life back to the point where you stole his identity. I think that's the fair thing to do.
Yeah.
You can't de-age him, but you've basically just wasted 30 years of your life, and we're setting you back to where you started from.
Right. And then he needs to be extradited to Colorado to answer for that car he stole when he was 16. Or was he still? Was he in California at that point? I forget. But
well, he's a minor. We can write that one off. But
he never faced justice for that first stolen car, though. And that was the impetus for the whole thing. Another thing that I saw this week that I thought would be worth looking at was this op-ed that was written by the owners of Iowa Select Farms. Do you know about Iowa Select Farms? Do you know anything in particular about them?
I do not.
I don't really either. They produce a lot of pork. You know, they're a big factory farm in Iowa. They produce a lot of pork.
Yeah.
They had this piece appear in the Des Moines Register on April 7th. It's called "Our Company is a Leader in Responsible Animal Agriculture." So you may already be skeptical of that.
I think the pork slaughterers are, protesting a little too much here.
Yeah. I'm curious why they even felt the need to respond to this, but the reason they wrote this is because Austin Frerick has a new book out which talks about factory farming and big agriculture in general in the state of Iowa. Do you remember Austin Frerick? Do you remember who he is?
Yeah, he was. He ran for some seat in like Cedar Rapids or Marion.
Yes, in Marion. He ran against Molly
Donahue.
Mm-hmm.
We've spoke about him before. Isn't he also like Yale? Like I guess he's written a book, so he probably went to an Ivy League. Yeah, but
one
did
of
he go
them.
to like?
I forget which one. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like an agriculture guy.
Yeah, I think he spent some time in DC and stuff. I didn't look super into him. I just mostly remember the Molly Donahue burner account thing, which she used to criticize him anonymously and then got caught.
The IAO2 constituent account, which is so funny that's what you named your your burner account to try to like rig your own election. Or not rig, but influence your own election.
All right. She won anyway, so she's still in office, and Austin's not, so he's just out there writing a book. But anyway, in the book, he criticizes Iowa Select Farms. So here is the piece from Jeff and Deb Hansen, who own Iowa Select Farms. As the saying goes, there are two sides to every story, and that is in quotation marks for some reason. And indeed, a book released last month conveniently tells only one side. Iowa Select Farms was never approached to respond to the author's speculation or allegations.
Wow. Definitely don't come off as like extremely defensive on this. Like,
you didn't even ask us.
I don't know how other people are, how media literate other people are, but like, this is like major red flags. Like, these people are just covering up whatever shit that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like, an hour just looking up stuff about Iowa Select Farms as a response. Like,
yeah,
I read this and I was like, what's going on with them? And just, you spend like a few minutes looking into them. It's like, oh, okay. They're the reason Iowa's environment is complete shit. It's pretty much them.
Literally.
And then they plug the book for some reason. Barron's, Money, Power, and the Corruption of America's Food Industry by Austin Frerick has received publicity. A book tour reportedly funded by Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, and a lengthy book excerpt published here in the Des Moines Register. So they're mad that it got published in the Register. They're using the age-old boogeyman of Iowa CCI.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's something shady going on there if they're a part of his book tour.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, everyone knows there's shady shit going on with the agriculture industry. I mean, not everyone knows, whatever. But, like...
How can you not, though?
Barron's Money, Power, and Corruption, the Corruption of America's Food Industry. I mean, that's compelling title to a book.
Right.
Might pick it up now.
Yeah, I mean, thank you to Jeff and Deb Hansen for letting me know about this book, Barron's, Money, Power, and the Corruption of America's Food Industry. I never saw anything like this in response to Chris Jones's Swine Republic. trying to point it out in the background.
No, they only took his blog away. That's all.
Right? Yeah, he was punished enough, silenced by the state. He frames the book with an opening chapter criticizing Iowa Select Farms, the company we founded. So that may have been what the Register printed. I didn't end up actually looking
another
at
red
that.
flag. They're Jeff and Deb Hansen. They're married. The company that we started, They're like
Right,
trying.
right.
I bet you. I don't know. You've done the research on the Iowa Select farms, but I'm guessing it's a little bit more than a small family operation.
Oh, yeah. It was disappointing that Frerick failed to acknowledge farmers' crucial role in producing safe, affordable protein for consumers worldwide while protecting the environment. The narrative presented is highly skewed and overlooks the significant contributions of Iowa farmers. The book offers many criticisms and little in the way of providing any actual ideas or a path forward.
That's a classic criticism of anyone
Yeah.
trying to expose any wrongdoing.
Look,
Oh, so you think you can do it better?
I mean, I've read about, a lot of things that could change that could, stop polluting every body of water in the state. I've seen these solutions that a lot of, academics have, but state regulators refuse to like take any role in making any of that happen. Like they're pretending that there's no other way for us to do this. Like this is just the way that pork happens. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be like you are doing something horrible no matter how you do it, but there are ways to mitigate the negative effects on the environment, right? At Iowa Select Farms, we are committed to providing nutritious and delicious protein options while bolstering rural economies through job creation.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! In all the notes.
Protein options.
That's interesting. Protein options. So are you including plant-based protein options?
Maybe. I think
there's a lot of soy here. You can do a lot with that soy. Make some very tasty vegetable patties out of that.
Yeah. It is weird the way that they use the word protein. It's so non-specific. Especially when you read like the next paragraph. Furthermore, the author neglects highlighting the societal benefits of using hog manure as an organic crop fertilizer. They're not euphemizing anything there. That's just the societal benefits of using hog manure. Farmers who responsibly manage and apply swine manure enhance soil organic carbon and overall soil health, reducing soil erosion and further protecting our water supply. All right, the big qualifier there is responsibly manage and apply swine manure. That's not happening.
Yeah, they will do anything to increase yield. They don't give a fuck. That's how it works.
Yeah. I don't know how much of this piece we should continue reading. You got the gist of it. They're lying about their practices and how they're not responsible for how bad things are getting in Iowa. If you pull up just the Iowa Select Farms Wikipedia, you can see how they're like a leading proponent of CAFOs. What's that? Concentrated animal feed operations?
Animal concentration camps.
Yeah. A CAFO, I mean, people listening to this probably know more about this than I do, but a CAFO is just like, how many animals can you confine in a small area? Just how dense can that population be? Obviously, it's very bad for the animals themselves, and it's very bad for the land where you're doing this, because that number of animals is not naturally going to be that dense on
and oftentimes bad for the people consuming the meat later on, because they have to use like antibiotics and stuff with all the crowding. They use more severe ways to mitigate disease.
Right. And one thing that I'm sure everyone listening knows about animals is that they do excrete waste. And when you have as many of them as possible on as small an area of land as possible, that means that a lot of that waste is being excreted in one very small area. And it's hard, they're talking about responsibly managing hog manure. It's a lot harder to do that when the mountain keeps growing and growing. Some of it's going to start like rolling away. And what if it rains on that big pile of hog shit, Another problem is that, like CAFOs are often very close to tributaries and rivers and shit. And so there's just nothing you can do to like responsibly manage what happens to all of that waste when it's that close to a body of water. And it's just laughable that the part where they say like, if you do it right, it's actually good for the soil too. Like, okay, I've read the stuff that Chris Jones has written about this. This is like my primary source of being able to understand this, because like environmental scientific information just like bounces off of my skull.
Yeah. Same here.
But there's so many nitrates in the animal waste that like the ground cannot possibly actually absorb hardly, like a very small amount of it. So much of it ends up just like sitting at the top of the soil and washing away. And there's so much hog manure being produced in the state that it cannot all be used in a way that benefits the soil.
They're like, we have a bunch of hog shit, and there's not a big market for hog shit. I don't think. I think it's, it
doesn't taste very good.
Yeah, there's not. People aren't eating it themselves. So like we have a lot of hogs and we have a lot of hog shit, and like what are we gonna do with all of it?
Yeah,
well, we're gonna spread it on the ground.
Yeah. If you just look at the political issues section of the Iowa Select Farms Wikipedia, this is all you need to know about like their influence on state agricultural policies. Iowa's hog industry, led by Hansen, has lobbied state politicians to roll back regulations pertaining to CAFOs, so what we were just talking about. Not only are they engaged in the practice, they are engaged in making that practice more dangerous and less regulated. In 1994, Iowa Select donated $41,000 to then Governor Terry Branstad's campaign. In 1995, 1 year later, he signed House File 519, quote, to protect animal agricultural producers. Jeff Hansen is quoted as saying the bill was a fair compromise. I didn't look super deeply into that one, but, just that trio of sentences there shows you the cause and effect. And as of 2021, Hansen contributed $300,000 to Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds' campaign. So they are in good with the current governor as well. I didn't just want to leave this to Wikipedia research, though. So I've also found an Intercept article by Lee Fong, published in 2021. After Pork Giant was exposed for cruel killings, the FBI pursued its critics. Headline alone tells you a lot.
Yeah, that's a classic Intercept headline.
It's a very long article, but I picked out a couple of details that I'll try to get through real quick. So they had someone who drove trucks for Iowa Select Farms was trying to blow the whistle on some of their practices when it comes to animal welfare. Walker is the guy's name, the truck driver. Walker thought the company was blatantly disregarding state double stocking rules, which limit the size and number of pigs that are held in an intensive animal feeding facility, letting overweight pigs crowd into pens far too small to hold them. He was tired of what he saw as frequent rule breaking and disregard for the well-being of the tens of thousands of hogs raised by Iowa Select. The company, in his view, seemed hell-bent on expansion and profits, leading to rampant overcrowding and water pollution. Everything we've been saying for the past 10 minutes in one sentence.
Yeah, there you go. Making it easy.
Yeah. And then Lee Fong goes into the history of Jeff Hansen and his political contributions as well, including the 1994 thing, which is when he donated $41,000 to Terry Branstad. He had set aside employee money for campaign contributions to local Republicans. The resulting scandal, the resulting scandal forced lawmakers to return campaign funds to Iowa Select, but the company continued to grow. So, again, he was setting aside employee money for campaign contributions to local Republicans back in 1994, and to this day, he's still a major contributor to Iowa Republican campaigns. I didn't look any further into that, but it seems like no consequences for those actions either.
Yeah. Setting aside, I think that means that they didn't pay these people and instead took it to the Iowa Republican Party. Like,
yeah,
you thought you were getting stuff withheld from, like, I would guess. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, I would guess it's some sort of like withholding scheme where they like think their taxes are going, or they're withholding money from their paycheck for taxes or benefits, and then taking some of that money, skimming it off the top.
Yeah, yeah. An element of this that we haven't talked about today, at least, is who is employed by these huge agricultural companies.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't know how the tax withholding works.
Yeah, and they might not also know how to vote.
Right. The governor, so they mentioned the huge donations to Kim Reynolds as well. The governor has maintained cozy ties to Iowa Select. Shortly after her election in 2018, Reynolds volunteered to auction off her time as a gift to the Hansen Family Foundation. In the early days of the pandemic, her administration arranged a COVID-19 testing site at a corporate office used by white-collar Iowa Select employees and foundation employees, raising concerns with one Polk County supervisor of special treatment for the campaign donor. I don't remember ever reading about that, but yeah, not surprising. The brief period of time where we had testing centers, yeah, it always seemed like something shady was going on with
for sure,
who was getting paid for that. All the PPE that ended up sitting in a warehouse until we donated it to Israel.
Yeah. God damn.
Kayla Lyon, who Reynolds appointed to run the Iowa DNR, which inspects hog farms for compliance with animal welfare and environmental rules, is a former dairy industry official and agribusiness lobbyist. Lyon, in her previous capacity as an influence peddler in Des Moines, had worked to pass the 2012 Ag Gag law that criminalized recording at farm facilities. Yeah, which that ended up getting overturned by a federal court. But that's where the FBI comes into this, is that this whistleblower, who himself is like conservative, he's not really like a vegan, animal liberation type person. He just like saw what was happening at his workplace, knew it was like unethical, like extremely wrong what they were doing to all these animals. And he ended up, getting in contact with animal rights protest organizations, and some of those people were trespassing onto Iowa Select property and recording the situation. And the FBI, after he tried to report his employer for their violations of law, the FBI was like, "Hey, we saw that we got somebody's phone and saw that you had contacted this group that
we've already been tailing these animal rights activists for fucking decades. Like, we've already infiltrated all of their operations, and we happen to notice that you're communicating with them now."
Yeah, they basically started threatening him, like, "Oh, you're going to report your employer, huh? Well, what about these people you're willingly associating with who have done the far more serious crime of documenting crimes?"
Yeah. Doing citizen journalism.
Right.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
No borders, no trespassing laws.
Like I said, this is a very long article, so if you're listening to us just like briefly summarize parts of it, you should probably check it out. What was really the impetus for him turning against his employer was the COVID pandemic shut down a lot of slaughterhouses because people were not able to safely work at them. The glut of hogs, great phrase, the glut of hogs, which suddenly became unprofitable, quickly ran up costs for the company. By the way, if you are a vegan or anyone who cares about animals, you're not going to like this next part. You're not going to enjoy hearing this. Iowa Select decided to mass slaughter thousands of pigs in a particularly brutal process called ventilation shutdown, or VSD. Workers sealed off airways while pumping steam into the barns, intensifying the heat over the course of many hours to the point at which the pigs died from suffocation and/or hyperthermia.
Ventilation shutdown. That is another creepy ass euphemism for literally just suffocation.
Suffocation and overheating.
Yeah. Two of the worst possible ways you could die.
Yeah. Anyway, this company, Iowa Select Farms, is all about responsible use, responsible protein production. Just don't Google them too much. And then I really wanted to connect this with the most recent horrifying, catastrophic environmental news. There was the, 1 million fish have been killed because I'm pulling this from a New York Times article about this. The latest die-off started, Iowa officials said, when a valve was left open over a weekend on a storage tank at New Cooperative, an agricultural business in Red Oak in southwestern Iowa. New Cooperative is not Iowa Select Farms, okay? but there is a connection here. The Iowa DNR, which learned of the spill on March 11th, said this week that 265,000 gallons of liquid nitrogen fertilizer spilled into a drainage ditch and into the East Nishnabotna River, which flows into the Nishnabotna River and then the Missouri River. Okay, so that is the result of a valve being left open on a storage tank of liquid nitrogen. Now, if we go back, this is very recent. This was March of 2024. But if we go back a few years, the Creston News Advertiser published this article in August of 2021 about a manure spill found near Thayer. Iowa DNR investigated cleanup of a manure spill about 6 miles south of Thayer. Iowa Select Farms reported the spill Monday night after pumping manure into a nearly full manure storage tank at one of their sow facilities. Their staff said the manure was supposed to be pumped into a different tank, but someone left a valve closed. Iowa Select estimated between 10,000 and 20,000 gallons spilled over the side of the tank into a small tributary of the Grand River. Tuesday, they updated the amount to about 10,000 gallons. So they initially said it's between 10 and 20,000, and then, thank God, it actually was about 10,000. It just happens to actually be the small number of what we originally said.
That's convenient.
DNR staff confirmed Iowa Select had dammed the tributary, trapping pooled liquid behind the dam, preventing a fish kill in the Grand River. All right, so it didn't happen to become a huge catastrophe that time. But it's a very similar circumstance, right?
Yeah.
The huge fish kill just happened because a valve happened to be left open by mistake. And this thing from a few years ago, a valve was left closed by mistake. It's the same shit. Like, if you have a huge tank full of manure, something bad could happen with that manure.
Yeah, it's almost like there might be like a need for regulations on, big tanks of nitrogen-based fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's kind of dangerous. I mean, they have done a lot, anhydrous ammonia. You don't see those tanks anymore. You used to see every farmer had a little tank of anhydrous ammonia. Well, it turns out they use that to make meth.
Right.
So
right.
that got regulated.
Can't have that around anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, don't they care about the Jankum epidemic?
I'm still not convinced that's real. I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure.
There's
sure
a lot of
someone
different
has
substances
tried
out there,
but yeah.
There's a lot of different, alternative substances that have to be more pleasant than that.
You don't believe those like early 2000s text files about how to get high off of Jankum?
I do not.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sure Austin Frericks' book is interesting. Maybe check that out at the behest of Jeff and Deb Hansen. Thank you, Jeff and Deb Hansen, for letting us all know about the new book by Austin Frerick. And for, making us all a little bit more suspicious of you in the process.
Good job.
Do you want to hear some voicemails, Evan?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This one's a little long. I'll see how long I let it go.
Hey, Rock Hard Caucus. First time caller, somewhat long time listener. This is in response to talking about Grinnell and the shows that have come there. I saw Slater Kenny, one of my all-time favorites there, about 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Russian Circles, Screaming Females. Tons of great stuff.
Bands.
But the story I'm going to tell is a story I've told to a few friends, one of whom might leave voicemails to you guys all the time.
Suspicious. Someone who leaves voicemails all the time. I think probably our number
Rob
one
Sand?
Yeah, voicemail leaver is Rob Sand. So this caller is friends with Rob Sand, I think. So I'm sorry for your loss, sir.
This was 2019, and I went to see a band called Camp Cope. And before they played, I was hanging out with my friend, and it's in that Gardner Lounge there at Grinnell, which is right below a big dorm. And we were just standing there, me and my friend. I'm 36 at the time. Obviously not a college student. And the Grinnell student comes up to us and is like, "Hey, you guys here for the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "You guys, some friends and I are upstairs. We're having some beers. You want to come up and hang out?" And we're like, "Okay." A stranger inviting us up, but why not? And, we went up and there was like 15 Grinnell students just like hanging out in like, at the end of a hallway, all the doors to the dorms were open. It was just kind of an in and out party. With like a lot of like gaming going on. So it's not like it was a rager. They were playing some kind of first person shooter thing. But yeah, and they were the nicest people ever, but they were treating me like I was this like oddity from another.
Did they think he was in a band? Is that where this is going?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Universe, were like, you have kids? You're a teacher? But you're how? Wow! And you came to Grinnell, and it's it's not a big deal, guys. Like, it's fine. But again, they just like the friendliest vibes. And those are the vibes I've always gotten anytime I've gone to a show at Grinnell. So, as far as I'm concerned, Grinnell filled with good people, and probably some like redneck racists too. But we'll just push them aside. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Well, there is at least one member of the student body who voted against unionizing, so that's
there's one.
Count that
I was
one out.
I was gonna say I don't think that we said anything bad about people who go to Grinnell. I think we were happy for them, except for that one person.
Yeah, I don't think that was a combative voicemail.
Yeah.
Next time you call, get a little angrier at us, okay?
Yeah, I talk shit on Wartburg too, but I think we're down with any liberal arts college students.
Yeah.
Pro college student
as
podcast.
A former liberal arts college student myself, I know I know a lot of the good and bad of that world.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, guys? Airbnb in the apartments follow-up. Y'all suggested that I enact some immediate consequences. That triggered a memory in me. I did one time have a whiskey or three and go ding-dong ditch one of the Airbnbs. And they came out of the hallway and saw me running back down the hallway towards my own apartment. So, that was a cringe moment that I probably shouldn't have done, but it was super funny. Anyway, bye.
Yeah, you got to do that sober so that you don't get caught as easily. Yeah, I mean, I'm in general an advocate for sober pranking. If you're gonna ding dong ditch, if you're gonna toilet paper.
Yeah. Well, what's the rule? Never break more than one law at once. That's there you go.
Not a bad idea. Yeah. What are some other examples of doing two crimes at once? Identity theft and stealing a car.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we talked about some examples.
You just got to get to the point where you are basically the kings of a monopoly of an industry that runs your entire state. And then if you have enough money and power and influence, then you change what the laws are. Then you can commit as many crimes as you want because they're no longer crimes.
They're not crimes.
Yeah. Right. There's still ethically crimes against nature and humanity and crimes against the animal kingdom, but legally the system now works in your favor. And even when your employees try to whistleblow, the state DNR will ignore them. The federal agencies will try to instead have them inform on your, political opponents. We've learned a lot of lessons today. We got one more voicemail.
Hello, Mr. Hard Caucus. I'm calling to you as a born and raised citizen of Minnesota. Your neighbors to the north. I'm
Minnesota. I can tell from his accent.
That was good. Yeah, that was a really good accent.
Minnesota. It's the O.
You didn't have
sound.
to tell us.
temporarily transplanted here, held captive in the corridor area. But I'd just like to say that your pronunciation of the beautiful south central Minnesota town of Waseca was correct. So good on you guys. Sending you guys lots of love from the land of 10,000 lakes. Keep up the good work.
Thank you to Mr. Minnesota. So I got one. I got Waseca right. Mm-hmm. The one that I'm worried about
Congrats.
For today's episode is Nishnabotna River.
I think that's how I would have gone. Yeah, Nishnabotna.
Yeah.
It's really fun to say.
Yeah, I'm sure there have been like TV news coverage of the fish kill in the Nishnabotna River, but I haven't watched any of them, so I haven't heard anyone say that.
Yeah. We'll say about Minnesota, if you had to choose any bordering states of Iowa to reside in, it's a very, very easy choice.
Yeah, definitely Minnesota. I like Minneapolis in general, you know. It's a nice city. I will say it's gotten worse since COVID, but
yeah, there's some things that have happened there that were bad.
Yeah, I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but I think Ashley and I went up there last year sometime, and like the downtown is just like no civilians, all cops. If you walk around, there's just a cop, at least one cop on every block, and like no one hangs out there anymore.
I went to St. Paul last year. I don't think I ever stepped foot in like in Minneapolis proper.
Yeah, St. Paul is better. I'd say
it's very cute.
I'm just trying to piss more people off.
Okay.
St. Paul is its own thing, you know. It's kind of like if I lived up there, I'd be Mr. St. Paul, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to call us to tell us if we got Nishnabotna right, the phone number is 319-849-8733. You can remember that with a very easy mnemonic device as well. 319-TI98P. And that's P-E-E. 319-TI98P. Sort of like a calculator and urine. You could also mail us stuff via U.S. Postal Service. P.O. Box 5336 in Coralville, Iowa 52241. Do we have anything else we need to plug today? No.
I don't think so.
I will remind everyone who lives around me, Mandy Remington's running for Johnson County Supervisor. The Democratic primary is June 4th. I will be voting for her in that primary. If you would be willing to register as a Democrat and vote for Mandy Remington in that primary on June 4th as well, that would be very helpful. You can go to her website, mandy4supervisor.com, to learn about why she's a good candidate. Again, mandy4supervisor.com, number 4. She is having a campaign fundraiser on May 5th, and I'll put a link to that in the full episode description. But I'm going to be playing at that. That's why I mention it.
Nice.
Along with Early Girl and Marzohelia. So two cool like songwriter people, and then me for some reason.
Yeah.
If you like the show and you have money to spare and would like to spend money on the show, patreon.com/rockhardcaucus is a good place to go to do that. I just released the 21st episode of Speed Freak Read Speak, which is a series that I do with our friend Tony about Sonic the Hedgehog comics. And we also will have a new episode of Bay Not Me Slippin' sometime soon, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We got to review the album Iowa again. That's a Slipknot album, if you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's the Slipknot album.
Yeah, we'll learn more about the full context of the band and see if we still think Iowa is the best. But so far, of the three I've heard.
Yeah, same here. Those are the only three I've heard.
Yeah.
And, it's an easy choice. But looking forward to that.
Yep. All right, this has been Rock Hard Caucus, episode 144. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Evan. And thanks, everyone.
Everyone. Hey, I was going to say everyone, too.
Everyone.
Everyone.
But when he walked in, he had these beautiful patent leather shoes, red patent leather shoes, and a white suit. He looked so cool, you know. And we said, "You want some vegetables?" We were cutting a song called Vegetables. We were all chewing on vegetables just to get the mood. And he started chewing on a carrot.
Vegetables. I don't know. There might have been substances involved. It might have happened. I don't know. I don't remember it all, I must say. Particularly some of those dark nights in LA. You just sometimes fall out of a car into a room. It would be very dark, and I'm not sure if I remember it. I did visit a couple of their sessions, but I don't remember eating vegetables. I'm sure I might have.